Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's a chess program on Pod TV. My name is Sasha Starr, and today our esteemed guest is Professor Ken Regan. Welcome to the show, Ken.
Again, and welcome to my home.
Yeah,
It's my
beautiful,
birthday today too.
beautiful. So we just have one tournament ended, another one is starting. Carlson was absolutely unbeatable and uh, played probably one of the highest chess ever being played in his demolition of Hans Niemann first,
And
and
Ferrugia.
then Feroz. Yeah, he was like flawless and just amazing the way he played and showed his complete superiority over anybody, and probably he just confirmed his name as the greatest of all time, at least as the way he plays now. And now, interestingly enough, he is playing in a chess Olympiad which is being held in Budapest, Hungary. There are 193 teams, if I'm correct.
Yes.
And Carlsen is playing for Norway, for his
Today.
country.
He did not play
Today,
yesterday, and
yeah,
Norway only drew their match against Canada.
yeah, well, listen, Canada is one of the strongest teams, and even, I'm joking, but still, unfortunately, Bariev is not playing for Canadian team. He's not only that he is very strong grandmaster, and he was at one at his peak, he was probably number three in the world. But even now, so many years later, he still have incredible feel for the game. Positionally, he's
Right.
very, very strong. Of course, he is now more middle-aged man. Without revealing his age, I would say that. Of course, it's difficult to withstand against all the youngest grandmaster who prepared through all the lines with computer preparation and so on. But nevertheless, this Olympiad is really a great celebration of chess.
Yes.
And by the way, Susan Polgar is coaching or at least helping U.S. teams
Hmm.
in Budapest. U.S. teams are doing actually tremendously well, although the Olympiad just started, but
Right.
they're doing quite well. And I wouldn't be surprised if a men's team will be first, probably by far, and women's team will probably compete for one of the top three places. And still
Okay.
have chance maybe even to win it. Who
I don't know. It
knows?
depends on how much more underrated the European women are. I measured them around 70 kilo underrated, so we may have a tough road, but doing well so far. Um,
Okay, Ken, would you like to show us
yes. And,
games?
and the theme of my games, including one that's going on right now in the United States versus Bulgaria match, is that the chessboard is not safe for minor pieces. Okay, I mean, there are these horrible, I mean, I could make a joke about it. It's actually really a kind of blood libel about cats and dogs in Ohio. But anyway, so a bit macabre for me to say that the common theme of the games I've chosen is the chessboard not being safe for minor pieces. So here we go. So this is game that's still going on right now. Wesley So has white against Arkady Naiditch, and there supposedly is a prize for the first person playing the Budapest
Oh, yeah.
Gambit in Budapest, but this game may get an honorable mention because of all the Joko piano variations. Usually, black develops the bishop out to c5, but here Naidish put it on e7, and this is as in the Hungarian defense. Um, so anyway, so play develops normally, including white preparing a retreat square for white's bishop, and the bishop's coming out to e3. But now, knight f6 already maybe a little questionable for black. Maybe you should just develop your pieces. Um, I don't know what knight d7 is meant to be preparing. It's not preparing f5. So white just gets the bishop away from being hit by knights. Now, white plays a similar maneuver, but white is clearing out the queen side, and black's minor pieces might be in the way of that. Okay, so now we take, and it's always a weird judgment whether this exchange improves black's center pawn structure or creates a weakness. The way this game unfolds, it's definitely in the creates a weakness category. And black is not yet threatening any action in the center, nor is black's pieces well set up to prepare it. So white is able to play very slowly. You don't have to rush to castle kingside. Instead, bring up the rook. And even this move here, this is not really threatening anything. So white is able to maneuver, and most strikingly maneuver again. So this is knight, that or knight h2 were given by the engine as white's best moves. And so this is all very interesting. Okay, so this bishop is going to meet a sorry end in a couple of moves. If it goes there, then it's actually just helping white. It's not a bad move. It's just that this is helping white develop an initiative. So black actually has to trade the knight. If you retreat, the h6 pawn goes lost. And now, in order to deal with the threats against h6, black has to play an unusual, weird move. And maybe the engine could defend this, but I'm not going to humanly defend this. So white's pawn is not hanging. But watch what happens to black's poor bishop on e7. Okay, so black gets the king out of that latent pin on the h6 pawn, although, you know, sometimes it's like jumping from frying pan to fire. I don't really see what black is preparing with that move. Maybe the king was better on h7. I don't know. Anyway, white plays a logical move, and now here's where black makes the first mistake. What black should do is play queen e8, which is at least a one-move temporary defensive e6, because if white takes on e6, black's bishop b4 check, uncovering the attack on white's queen. Black does need to bring the queen over to defend this king side. Instead, however, black tried to get one of these offside knights active, but it absolutely hands the initiative over to white. Okay. Now white brings back the knight, so it turns out we didn't need the knight retreating the knight made way for white's queen. We didn't need to deploy it via h3, which is also good. But this is better. And now, interestingly enough, black has already lost this bishop. Looks like a natural move. You think you want to provoke e5 in order to, at least close the center, take some pressure off the light squares. But white has knight h5, and now black plays queen d7, which is the natural defense move. But now what you've forgotten is that now on e5, the bishop cannot retreat to e7 anymore. And if it goes to c5, white has bishop b4, and it's trapped. So in this position, Neidich has taken the lesser evil of sacrificing the exchange and does get a pawn on e5. So in certain positions, this could be sufficient compensation, but not this one. Okay, white is still controlling all the squares. Black's bishop has to fall back on defense. And interestingly enough, rather than castle queenside, there's nothing wrong with white castling queenside. It's computer's second best move. But actually, Wesley decided to just play the king here and bring the rook to e1, again putting extreme pressure on black's position right away. Okay, and now, well, white is an exchange up, but now this is breaking the game open. Okay, and so this is the current position on the board. And
wow, it's definitely winning for white. It looks quite ugly.
It does. It does. So now let's see the wonderful adventures of Levon Aronian and Arjun Erigaisi in round one.
Oh my God. What a
Arjun, an up-and-coming star here. So now let me share my screen. I have these games in a chess GUI. So again, I'll just share the tab for that GUI if I can find it. Uh-oh, where is it? Oh, window. Here we go. Okay, so now tell me if you see a chessboard, and I'm analyzing this with the Komodo engine. Okay, let's give it a little bit of time.
Okay.
Yep, now you see it. Okay, So let's see.
No, I don't see anything.
Oh, let's see. Okay, let me jiggle it a bit. List games. Let me load Erigaisi's games then. All right. Okay. It should be showing the window of this chess GUI. All right. Let me
Not yet.
go out and stop sharing then. Oh wait. You know what? It cut out. I'm sorry. Let me try it again. Okay,
Okay.
you're right. Okay, it cut out. Should be to window. Do you know what? It's blacked out. It can't see this. So let me do the entire screen, therefore. All right. Okay, so I'm doing my entire screen, and now can you see the?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So that's what I had to do. So the fact the window was blacked out meant it couldn't show it. Okay, so this is the up and coming star Arjun Erigaisi, who seemingly has gotten no love, even though he's now above 2775. He's the one up and coming young Indian player who has not been in the candidates tournament or in, well, he's been in some major competitions, but not as many. Okay. He is playing opponent more than 400 points lower rated. And so we get a Nimzo Indian type position where black is able to remove white's dark squared bishop really early. But white has now beaten off the pin and not suffered any damage to pawn structure. So even though black has the two bishops, white has a lot of space and decides to fianchetto behind, building up the center. And black's knight coming out to c6, I always find that awkward. I mean, it's fine when you've got double pawns on the c file to shoot against, but here Erigaisi is doing it without white's pawns being doubled. But it's a little bit difficult to defend c4, I guess. And white decides to be proactive and keep black's knight from coming to a5. And now comes an amazing reaction. And I'm going to put on the engine. I have the Komodo 11 engine loaded with this. And, if black plays e5, which is a dark square trying to take over type of move, it's not totally bad. But Erigaisi goes nuts and captures on b4 with the bishop. Now, wait a sec. Oops, what happened? Oh, okay. Captures on b4 with the bishop. Now, wait a second. There's not an immediate follow-up, bishop takes c4, because black's knight is hanging. So no, the follow-up is black just cements the knight. And now, okay, threatening to take on c4 for 3 pawns for the piece. But this is nonsense. The Stockfish engine gives white already more than 3 pawns advantage. I'm deliberately doing this with an older engine just to see what would be happening. But the natural active move, knight f4, guarding this pawn and enabling bishop e2 and castles, preserves a very strong advantage for white. Maybe, obviously, you're afraid of this pawn being taken, but for now, that just hangs black's knight. Okay, and it's not clear what black is going to do for counterplay. Here, you retreat the bishop, play d6. It's all very lame. So then white, as a 2300 player, should be able to complete a victory. I mean, white can just play bishop e2. The computer actually wants white to play knight d3 and exchange off some of black's pieces, but there's nothing wrong with this. This is a very safe piece for 2-pawn advantage. But instead, the player thought, well, I'll defend my c-pawn in a thematic way, and kind of panicked, captured here. And with Stockfish, interestingly enough, this engine's still giving white a half-pawn advantage. But with Stockfish 16, it's even less. So, anyway, white played d5, and this isn't so impressive either because, well, you're closing the position. I guess you're going to reason that in a closed position, your minors are better than black's rooks. But now black's knight comes back to its nice square, and we trade pawns. Black's rooks have air anyway in this position, and white's bishop is blocked. And now look for a move you can't castle. And queen d3 actually I think is a mistake already. And black, since white is undeveloped, is able to shoot back in the center right away. a wing lift that will have repercussions in the center. And okay, white castled, but now the other repercussion here is for white castle that took away the pressure in the center, but now black has a free move to get in b4. I should show what would happen if white had captured the pawn. Black would play queen a5 check and it would be mayhem. So now white played d6, I guess trying to lock in black's minor pieces. Oh wait, black doesn't have any minor pieces, so I don't know what that move is for. Okay, well that pawn has died an ignominious death already, and I'll just scroll through the rest of this game. It was just murder. Okay. And white gave up. Okay. All right. So not to be outdone. This was on board too because India is the second-ranked team. Levon Aronian went one better when it comes to pitching minor pieces in the opening. Look at Aronian's game from round one. Here we go. Okay. So Aronian also is black. So the nifty thing is all of this largesse is happening with black. At least it's a Sicilian, although Rosalimo Sicilian, and this is a line in which white is able to knock black's pieces around a fair bit. So this fianchetto with g6 is being set up as a fianchetto for the knight rather than the bishop. Okay, but nevertheless, black does have grips on some central squares. White has just one pawn active and it's already advanced to e5. Okay, white does have a nice square on e4, and white has a development advantage, control of the center. So with black, you have to know what you're doing. And the old version of Komodo actually says that this is a strong position for white. Okay, we'll prevent black's knight from coming into c3. And now black plays more developing moves. Yuck, yuck. Well, the g5, this structure is actually becoming more popular. But if I were playing chess here, I would worry about little things like, am I going to get mated by a piece dropping on f6 or d6? Well, white comes another way. Black defends with the queen. And now white decides to push black around some more. And, well, black actually decided he's not going to be pushed around. And actually, there is a problem. If black plays knight g7, as maybe Aronian thought he would be able to do, this now very much does get crunched by knight d6 check.
Exactly.
Can't take it anymore, and if you take it with the pawn, your queen is discovered check, and this is just a crush. So in fact, when we got back to this position here, instead of the queen c7, not a care in the world, black had to play queen d7 or bishop b7 or bishop g7, giving up the pawn, which maybe that's even black's wisest choice here. Okay, so queen c7 was a piece-losing blunder, and white said, thank you very much. And so Aronian realized, oh, I really do have to get my queen out of that discovered attack. So, okay, there you are, free piece for one pawn. Okay, now, so how is white going to manage to not win this one?
Yeah, bishop. Well, black finally has two bishops advantage, though.
Yeah, that's right. Well, yeah, black does have two bishops advantage. Okay, so we play d4, a natural attacking move. So the only compensation that black has, but it's really what you would call a concept of compensation, is that white is missing the g pawn. There's a little air around the king. And you have a queen on b7 that is potentially threatening mate on g2. Well, lots of stuff in the way, but you're a creative grandmaster, you can dream. So this is how Aronian manages to dream up counterplay in this position. First, we take this pawn, and actually white plays the knight out of the way. White could have just recaptured, of course, with the c takes d4. There's nothing wrong about it. But Komodo actually does prefer to play knight b3, because if black takes this pawn, then it uncovers the queen on the bishop. I only have to show that. Knight f6 is just crushing for white. So that's a clever move, but the cleverness also fell in with what black was wanting to do, so he castled. So now the point is that now black will be able to play c5 in some position. Well, not here. White has both knights and the pawn, and it's in front of black's king. But we start preparing, and the way to start preparing is get the king out of the way. Okay, that's good. Bishop d2. All right. Now I'm going to put c5 in your head with bishop d7, and that made white's queen move off. But actually, whoa, wait a second here. Now black has a ghost of a chance of thinking about the e3, getting e6 in. Okay, so how are we going to get an e6? Right now, if black plays e6, that's going to get stuffed by knight d6. But we can do some rope-a-dope feinting here. Let's sort of nudge white's very well-defended knight on e4. Make white worry about c5 maybe happening now, uncovering an attack on e4. Okay, so rook a, c1, and now e6, and now knight d6 isn't so fearsome as a reply, because black might be able to gang up on white's d-pawn. Okay, white have to recapture with pawn because black has the rook on d8 now. The bishop moved out of its way. So white decides not to stick the knight in on d6. Actually, let me just see what would have happened if white had done that. Yeah, I mean, you could do it. You were just playing chess, and white is playing a piece ahead, but maybe black can win a second pawn. All right, but there's nothing wrong with queen a4 either. But now we're going to see Aronian go about weaving the last part of his plan.
Can you show one very quick moment? Instead of queen a4, would white try bishop b4?
Let's see. There is, in fact, nothing wrong with that move either.
Just to increase control of d6.
Yeah, that would be consequent. I guess what the computer says, black is nothing better than bishop takes b4, take the bishop, take the knight, and plant a rook on d5 and hope.
Yeah.
But
like a fortress type position.
Try to be a little fortressy. But anyway, white is attacking the c6 pawn, makes black defend, and white gangs up on the c file. So Aronian brings the king away. And now, well, you can't play rook c1 because then black would capture the knight. So white's going to prepare the plan by getting the knight out of the way, hitting black's bishop, and now bishop h3. Okay. And now the engine is still showing white with, almost 3-pawn, full piece advantage. There are lots of moves to play. And in fact, white's rook on c3 is really good. It can support moves like f3, just closing down this diagonal. Okay, but you could double up on the bishop. The most consequent move probably is playing knight h5 and getting the knight into f6. But white decided to reroute the knight a different way, play knight f1 to bring it to e3, and again just make known that you have 3 pieces to play with in the center and black only has 2. So knight f1, and now here comes Aronian's combination. So now Aronian is finally able to spring the checkmate on g2 combination, and white will have to give back the piece. So b5, and what white probably didn't see, so I'll let readers see it first. Actually, it actually is shown as the best move for white. So that's curious. But the point of black's play is that if queen a5, board is not safe for a queen either. This traps white's queen, because when you take it, black has c5, finally springing the mate on g2. Now, not Stockfish, but Komodo actually thinks that white is still fine here with 3 pieces for the queen. but it must, and white still has an advantage, 3 pieces for the queen, and there are places where I can anchor the pieces. So on c5 and d6. So maybe this is still an advantage for white. It's not so much an advantage when I played this over on Stockfish. But anyway, white didn't do that. So white played knight a5 to seek the haven of a drawn rook endgame. So there we go. Black has won the piece back. And Komodo says 0-0-0. But Aronian, of course, is a grandmaster. And when he gets a second chance, you're not going to survive long. Okay, pawns are equal. Black opens up the position. Now, of course, objectively, white should not lose. But now even Komodo is saying that black is slightly better of this endgame. I haven't recorded what the time situation was for the players. But Aronian is able to play very simple, direct chess. Let's go for mate against white's king. There we are, starting to close the net. Again. Oh, we're going to checkmate you down here. Ah, yes. Okay, there we go. White retreats. Okay, you can't take on h4 for reasons that will basically happen in the game. Okay, h6. Now this, and now g3. H takes g3, rook 1 takes g3, and this is mate coming up because black is simply going to withdraw the rook along the g file and play one of the rooks to h file mate. So white gave up.
Oh, that's really something. Oh my God.
Maybe I'm not showing the best chess from this tournament, but it's certainly, an antidote to the idea that you play it safe, you grind people down in the early rounds of the Olympiad. So,
yeah, Ken, that's a great illustration of what can happen when two players are so far apart in their playing strengths that even an extra piece not guarantee even a draw, never mind winning.
Right.
Especially such a resourceful player as Aronian is. He's very, very resourceful. And he had many games when he had almost anyone would resign in the positions and he would continue calmly playing and eventually turning things around.
Yeah.
He's really something.
Well,
so you want to show one more?
I'll show one more game. I'll show one from the women's section on the first board. The Indian team playing against Switzerland. Divya Deshmukh as black. So I haven't looked at this game beforehand like I did the others, but it may be interesting to see. So let me present one more game. She has black. So this is also, by the way, a celebration of black for these last 3 games. So Divya Deshmukh, 24-83 against Sofia Hertzlova playing for Switzerland. So again, significant rating edge to black, but what do you do with it? We just saw, grandmasters from the U.S. and India use their rating edge to hang pieces. Let's see what happens. Nimzo Indian defense for her again. Okay, so again, this line with 92, but now black counteracts in the center right away and decides to preserve the bishop. This can be a very sharp line because white is able to capture on c5, and it's not very clear how you're going to get back that pawn. Okay, you have to. White could support it by b4. The c4 pawn is ultimately a goner, but it's going to last long enough to prevent b4 by the en passant capture. So there we go. But still, black is latently losing a pawn in this position. So how is black able to drum up enough initiative? So in fact, the engine likes white quite a lot in this position. So I don't know what the prep is. Must be book still. I don't know what the prep is supposed to be, but white decided to snap off the pawn. Maybe not the best idea. F3 is a very logical move preparing this. Okay, so black is able to get the pawn, but white, still has a bit of an edge, but black starts mixing it up. And just in the space of a few moves, we're going to see white go very badly astray. Actually, already, black has the initiative, says the computer. Black is now better developed. And after e4, white is probably losing now. Those black's pieces are now on really good squares there, securely anchored. And now white's position is being invaded. Weak squares on d3, latent checkmate on d1. White can't castle. Even running to the king side doesn't help anything. b3 is weak too, and so black is going to tighten the noose. White's rook on g3, maybe an endangered piece, and white decided to prevent the pawn from coming to h4. But now let's see, what was black's here? G5. Wow, you can actually play G5 in this position. That's insane. How can you play G5 in this position? I guess let the engine tell me, of course. If you play H takes G5, is H4 the point? Yeah, H4 is the point. All right, show me. Rook H3. Okay, so
Bishop G2.
Wait, no, this is a Stockfish hallucination.
Oh.
It wants to play Rook G1. Oh my, okay, I'm wondering about this. Well, wait a second. Okay. I don't know what position Stockfish is looking at. It's not the one on the board. Okay.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So anyway, but F5, I think, that's an obviously strong move. You're threatening F4, and if white takes it, then the knight forks the rook and bishop, and H4 is loose. So white played to make a threat. And now we're going to start cashing in here as black. Okay, so white's position is utterly in ruins at this point. Okay. So in fact, the engine. Oh, look! In fact, it's resignable because this rook's attacked, and black is coming in on d2 to win the other rook. So this game is over. Very powerful play by the owner of the black pieces.
Wow, it's so almost an attack from nowhere, and you're absolutely right. Instead of bishop c4, f3 would create at least equal position, probably slightly better for white.
Yeah, but you play actively with black, you take your chances, and you cash in. So
yeah, because white took on c4 instead of playing f3, which would restrain black pieces quite sufficiently, in my opinion. And pawn on c4, it would be still a weakness and probably would be taken next a few moves anyway. Yeah. Well, listen, let's enjoy this Olympiad, and we'll cover, and will be, I'm sure, many more interesting games. So we will look at it next week. In the meantime, thank you very much for this program, Ken, and have a great weekend.
Okay, yep.
We'll see you next week, same place, same time. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.